not offered for the truth of what's stated. It's to explain what he did next.
It doesn't, I didn't think it was the truth of the matter asserted. I think he's just kind of explaining how things went.
Yes, sir.
Since it's not the truth of the matter asserted, it would be hearsay. I'll go ahead.
Carter asked for me. He asked my daughter, "Is your dad home?" And she said, "Yeah, what's going on?" She obviously recognized that he was upset. He said that my mom sent me over. She needs your dad's help. My dad is super mad at my mom, and she needs you to come over. My daughter immediately came to the stairs, to the cellar, and called out for us. When I came upstairs, she told me what Carter had said, and I did just that. I walked out the front, headed over to find out what was going on. As I did that, I commented to her, "Go get Jimmy," who was our other neighbor to the north of our house. Carter had said, "Jimmy's already over there." So I came out the door and walked across the street, through our front yard, through the ditch, and over into the front yard of the Henning's house.
When you approached their house, did you hear or see anything?
I did. So when I came out of my house, as I was moving toward their house, I was immediately aware of a lot of activity. In as much as all of the neighbors, there were many people out of doors, kind of like a crowd, if you will, but not gathered together. They were milling about, just standing around, wondering what was going on. It was clear to me that something had transpired that I had not heard because we were down in the basement, but something had happened. Some of the neighbors were calling out, asking what's going on. Some of the others I just noticed were standing out there. There was some commotion, some activity to the left side of the house, so that's where I went to. I went to that area. There's a chain link fence, 4-foot chain link fence that surrounds the back of the house. So I approached the fence. As I approached it, Jimmy Watts came out of the house. He came off the deck, because the deck lets out into the backyard. He came off the deck and around the side to the fence. And the first thing he said was, "You need to call 911. I asked why. He said that things were getting out of hand.
Without saying what Jimmy said. Without saying what Jimmy said beyond the call 911, what was his demeanor?
He was distressed. I will use the word excited, but not in a good manner. He was clearly under duress, something was wrong. So I tried to find out what was going on. As I approached the property, one of the other neighbors to the south side of our house also came over. He followed me over. So his name is Robert Jennings. He talked with Jimmy. Jimmy kind of explained that Jordan was upset. He was angry and was a bit out of control. He explained to us some of the things that happened that he witnessed in the house and had said, "Hey, we need to call 911. Jimmy's wife, my wife, were also outside. I turned around to talk to them for just a minute, maybe two. During that time, Robert and Jimmy were talking with Jordan. I saw them talking with him. So Jimmy was distracted a little bit. Once.
Still with us here to discuss is criminal defense attorney Alan Kagawa. What do you make about this testimony? A little bit of a repeat from the first witness on the stand.
A little bit of a repeat, but beneficial to the prosecution. The defense's main theory is that this is a case in which Jordan just snapped all of a sudden. What we're getting from this testimony is that, you know, it's Jordan's son came over. Jordan's son was aware that things were building. The fact that, you know, this is establishing that Jordan was consistently angry. There were a lot of feelings building up, not the kind of immediate break or snap that the defense would like.
Yeah, and Alan, I got to go back to the juror question and then the subsequent questioning by the defense. Matt and I were wondering, how did that help the defense? Because it kind of was the same thing. He was bringing out this idea that there was this confrontation with the neighbor before the whole thing went down in the house. I didn't see how that helped the defense.
I really didn't see how that helped the defense either. It's one of those things where, you know, if instead, you know, Jordan had this, like, you know, very polite, pleasant conversation, and then suddenly there was a shift, that would absolutely go to the defense's idea of a snap. Here, it's kind of understandable why this is a prosecution witness and not a defense witness. It was beneficial to the prosecution and not to the defense.
And we're running out of time, but, you know, in this type of defense, do you think he'll have to take the stand?
I think that he will likely have to take the stand. This is the kind of case where it's uncontested that the killing happened. It's really a state of mind kind of thing. Was there intent to kill? I'd say there's a decent chance he will be taking the stand.
Yeah, he's got to paint a picture for this jury about what was going on in that house. It's his only chance. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll have more from the military wife murder trial when we return. Keep it here on Court TV. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Michael Ayala along with Matt Johnson. We are tracking several trials across the country today. In New Hampshire, opening statements are set to begin this hour in the bad blood shooting trial for Jason Bocker. Now, he admits to shooting his neighbor but claims it was in self-defense. The victim, Kyle Violet, survived.
In the Commonwealth of Kentucky, we are bringing you the trial for the former U.S. Army soldier Jordan Henning, accused of shooting and killing his military wife, Ashley, at her birthday party back in 2023.
And in California, testimony is underway in the murder trial for Monica Cementelli. She is on trial for the murder of her famed hairstylist husband, Fabio. And today, the defense could call her lover, Robert Baker, to the stand. But we are going to begin this hour in Kentucky with the Jordan Henning murder trial. On the stand still is a neighbor. His name is Jason Bocker, and he is on direct examination.
They talked with him for a little bit. At that point, Jordan was insistent that that we leave his property, we mind our own business, get out of here. So Jimmy started to come around. To the left of the house, maybe 20 feet, is an opening in the fence, a gate. So he went to the gate and started to come around the fence. I was maybe 5 feet from the fence. Robert was in front of me. Robert turned around and motioned to me to follow him. When I did, Robert said, "He is not right. You need to get out of here. We need to get out of here." That's not a quote. That's the gist of what he said. I took that with good credibility. Robert is a retired military policeman. So, you know, I figured he knew what was going on. I asked him why, and he said he didn't know if Jordan had a gun or not, but he certainly had his hand behind his back and was acting as if he did. So he said, "Hey, you know, we need to get out of here." He walked over toward his house. At that point, Jimmy became aware that no one had called 911. Even though a lot of people were standing around, he had announced it clearly when he came out. Somebody needs to call 911. The neighbor behind the Henning's house was, and the best way to say it is screaming, "What's going on? You better get quiet. I'm going to call the cops." And we were like, "Go ahead, call." Because I was called out of my basement in such a hurry, and I was in such a hurry to get upstairs, I left my phone downstairs, sitting on our freezer. So I didn't have a phone. Jimmy's phone was on charge. He was charging it, so he didn't have his phone. His wife, Amy, was there. She dialed 911, but said that she didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to say. So she dialed 911, but handed me the phone. When the operator answered, I said that we needed somebody to come out to the house where we were at. There was a domestic dispute, and we needed them to send somebody out. They asked me what the address was. I knew what my address was, but I wasn't sure what theirs was. So I turned around, I looked at the mailbox. I got the address and I gave it to the operator, and she proceeded to ask a couple of questions, what my name was, where I was from, where I lived, and then she asked what was going on. And I said there was an argument. It was vocal but turned physical. She asked in what way it turned physical, and I said, I don't know firsthand. I wasn't in the room. And she said, okay, that's fine. She asked a few more questions. I don't recall what they were. They were just not random, but administrative questions. And then she said, she clarified, she asked, did someone tell you what happened, or did you see what happened? And I said, no, someone told me. My neighbor told me what happened. And I said, do you want to talk to him? By this time, Jimmy had come around the fence. We were out in the front yard, and she said, yes. So I called Jimmy over, I handed him the phone, and I said, this is a 911 operator. She wants to speak to somebody who saw what was going on in the house. So he took the phone, was talking with the 911 operator. At that time, Jordan was still obviously angry, upset, and demanding that we left the property, that we mind our own business, that we hang up the phone. And so we all, the four of us that were standing there, moved away from his property. We went out into the street and then across the street into onto my property, and continued talking with the 911 operator.
While you were beside or behind your house there, before you all moved back there, could you hear what Jordan Henning was saying?
I could.
Do you recall anything specific?
I'm sorry?
Do you recall anything specific in his demeanor and the way he was saying it?
Yes. He had, again, his demeanor was anger, and he was upset. He was, so from the time that I went over to the house with my daughter, Jordan was there. He was intoxicated. Seemed like really, like happy drunk, had a very distinct absence of personal space, which I know to be something that happens when he drinks. But he was clearly, he wasn't slurring or stumbling or falling down or anything. He was making sense. He was clear. He was shouting that we get off his property. He knew we were on the phone with 911 and commented several times, "You better hang up the phone. You don't need to get anyone else involved. This is not your business." He was hollering at us, shouting. So at this point, and throughout the whole instance, I could hear him. I could not see him.
Okay.
When Robert and Jimmy came over, Robert was a little bit further to the left of where I was, and he could see around the back of the house.
All right, we're going to take this opportunity while they go to sidebar to bring in our guest. Joining us this hour from Houston, Texas, trial attorney Tamika Rabowski. Tamika, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. I wanted to ask you, it's interesting because the defense has this weird hybrid defense. At least that's how I see it. It's sort of this hybrid between heat of passion and battered spouse, right? So you have that. Now you throw intoxication into the mix. How does that all play together in your mind?
Together. At the one end of the spectrum, he just snapped. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we have so far 2 neighbors, and apparently there were more who could act as witnesses, who are there to tell you that he was very clear, despite his alleged intoxication, he was very clear in telling people that they needed to mind their business, that they needed to hang up the phone. He was very clear in his intentions and in what he was doing. So it's completely inconsistent. I don't even know if it's a hybrid. These pieces just don't fit.
And you know, Tamika, from a trial standpoint, as an advocate, you know, this is an area of the country where the jury can actually ask questions. Does that help one side or the other more? And does that change your game plan as you put forward your case in chief?
Well, I think that in this particular case, because of the kind of mismatch in the defenses, it's going to create a lot of questions because it's creating a lot of questions for me, and I'm a bit more experienced in the arena than they are, so I'm sure that they have lots of questions. I don't know that that helps him because at this time, you admit that you have killed her. You're saying that you snapped, but then we have all these other elements that are in there. I don't know that it helps him because it tends to raise more questions that cast doubt on his defense.
Yeah, and that might be true, but I think as a defense attorney, it gives you some insight into what they're thinking.
They're thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
So I think it would be helpful from that sense, provided that you can work with it.